All right, welcome everybody. This is day 2 of week 10. So everything closed yesterday. We're at the end of third quarter. So today we're kind of have a filler day. So I don't have a ton for us, but because we technically start fourth quarter when we come back. But what I went ahead and did was I found this interesting documentary. I came across it when I was doing research for EV cars and stuff like that, and I watched it. In fact, I watched a couple documentaries. I love documentaries. Anybody else? I love documentaries. I feel like it's a great way to learn, and I actually sometimes tend to learn better from those than reading. Like reading can help, but I am a visual learner, so I love a documentary when I can. So, anyways, I thought this would be an interesting thing just to kind of add to a little bit of our discussion we had on EV cars, green energy. And there has been, as I stated earlier, there's been so much movement and change in green energy and for the better and reducing carbon emissions and toxins and things like that, which I think everyone is in support of. We all want a better earth. We all want a better earth for our younger generations to inherit, and stuff. If we don't take care of it, it won't last. But I also believe, by being a history teacher, that the pattern that I notice is that anytime there's a leap forward, there's always what I would like to call growing pains. Okay. It's not all good. And we love to highlight all the good. And we kind of sometimes, with the push forward, we ignore the bad, or we don't want to talk about it. And politicians do this a lot. Governments do this a lot. And this has been the history. Industrial Revolution, we saw this. In the 20th century, we've seen this. AI, we're going to see this. Okay. Artificial intelligence, they're going to shove down our throats all the good and not necessarily highlight some of the dangers. Social media, a lot of topics, right? Where we see advancements, we highlight only the good and we don't acknowledge enough the concerns or the problems that need to be fixed. With every advancement, there's going to be growing pains. So this is one that I think doesn't get talked about enough, especially in the media and in mainstream, that not all green energy is green, or at what expense, and stuff. So is it really green if we're doing it at the expense of other people? And this is an interesting example of that. So what I'm going to have you do is go into Canvas. Okay, so everybody's going to need to do this because you need to get the video sheet before I play it. Go into modules, and we're going to go to week 10. Sorry, 1 second while you do that. My dog is getting in the pantry looking for another. Are you trying to get another Chewy? You better not. I forgot to close the pantry door, so it's like. I have a 8-month-old Rottweiler puppy, so she is good most of the time, but sometimes a little mischievous. So, any of the rest of you have dogs or cats or pets? You know what I mean? They get into things like a kid. So, a flipping turtle and birds. Dang. What kind of turtle? Like a tortoise, or like a little snapping turtle, or like what kind of turtle? Birds. Those are a lot of maintenance. Those are not easy. Some random one from Chinatown. Okay, but is it smaller? I'm guessing if it's from Chinatown, it's smaller. Like $5. You're the $5 turtle. Okay. All right. That's cool. That's cool. Birds. Those take some specialization. Those are not always easy. So very cool. All right. So we're going to go to the week 10 green energy. Is it all green? And then once you get on this page, go ahead and go to number 1 and open up the video sheet. While you do that, I'm going to read this kind of intro. Historically, with any modern transition or technology, there are always growing pains. If it seems too good to be true, look deeper for what effects it has along the way. This does not mean advancements in technology are bad. It means sometimes we need to be aware of the effects all the way around and be willing to address. Most advancements have perks, but often also have a downside that has to be addressed. And I think this is one that is blatantly obvious, but also doesn't really get a lot of coverage and stuff. All right, so open up the video sheet, make a copy. Okay, so as we go through, make sure that you save this to your speech and debate folder, okay, on the Google Drive, and then make it shareable. Anyone with the link. Okay, the questions go in sequential order, so really try to be paying attention to what each question is and listening for the next one. Okay, so the first couple, who owns the most cobalt mines? We're looking for what country? What percentage of the world's cobalt comes from Congo? Are cave-ins common at the cobalt mines? How did, I'm going to probably say it wrong, Diomba, I think it's Diomba, die? How is it clear that there are no precautions or efforts to make the mines safe for kids? What are some of the companies who get their cobalt from these mines in the Congo? What form of labor is common in the Congo mines or the cobalt mines? What are possible health conditions that can result from prolonged cobalt exposure? Why don't most of the kids go to school? Why do the government's bans to stop child labor have little effect? How long can they stay in the tunnels while harvesting cobalt? What color is raw cobalt? Where's the cobalt from the illegal mines being shipped? The illegal cobalt will eventually be combined with legal cobalt and used in mainstream products. That should be products. True or false? How are intruders of the mines handled? Why are the mines getting away with their activity even though there are laws in place? A country so rich with resources, what evidence of this wealth can be seen within the country? Why are some families resistant to education offered by the nuns? Okay. And then we'll talk about the reflection piece afterwards. Okay. Any questions before we start? All right. Everybody's got this open? All right, great. So I'm going to go back to this page. So this documentary is in the Congo, which is a country in Africa, and it's about they're one of the top producers of cobalt in the world, which again is used by major companies, and you'll see this and stuff. So here we go.
The Democratic Republic of Congo is one of the poorest countries on Earth. But it holds the world's richest deposits of cobalt. Now the race is on to mine the metal essential to making electric car batteries.
This is what people in this region are digging and dying for.
It's dangerous work. The massive industrial mines, mostly Chinese-owned, are a law unto themselves.
People are dying for lack of safety.
Corruption and violence are rampant. Small-scale or artisanal miners who work on the fringes of the big mines risk arrest, even death. Many are children. This report exposes the brutal cost of our green energy revolution.
Are we under arrest?
It's a story many don't want told.
Put your camera down, camera down.
70% of the world's cobalt comes from the Congo. The country is deeply troubled. Decades of conflict have destroyed its economy and its health and education systems. Millions live on less than $2 a day. As demand for this metal has surged, Congolese have flooded into the south of the country, looking to make a buck from the boom. Some have been lucky to find jobs in the big mines. Most, like Mama Natalie and her sons John and King, scratch out a living digging for cobalt in the waste that the industrial mines discard.
Mpaka vile kama unaenda mimi moyo unakalakaje kama unapata watoto wanakula kama akupata banalala mpaka vile na njala.
Mama Natalie and her family are artisanal miners, workers who extract the metal by hand in illegal or semi-regulated sites. These miners produce up to 30% of the Congo's cobalt. Every day, before the security guards arrive, they climb the embankments of this Chinese-owned mine and join hundreds of other families in search of cobalt.
Kaya tunapata bulongo bwa kusampisha, ndio nabo wanaanza kuitusakia bulongo na kulokota tule twenye tumamatieri.
They're trespassing, so they have to work fast. Security often beat, arrest, and even shoot artisanal miners.
Ile haina maisha ya mzuri kwa watoto. Ni kupusa kazi.
Almost as soon as they begin, it's time to leave. The mine's security teams are on their way. When the patrollers break for lunch, Natalie and her boys will dig for another hour. If they find enough cobalt, they'll eat tonight.
Joyeux anniversaire.
In Congo, artisanal mining can be a deadly business.
I've just received on my phone a really disturbing video. It shows a mine that has just collapsed and it buried alive 6, 7, 8 miners. And I'd heard that these kinds of cave-ins happen all the time in this region, but even still, it's really quite confronting to see it on video like that. And what's more, I'm now actually on my way to visit a person whose story I know is just going to rip my heart out.
I'm on my way to meet a mother who lost her 13-year-old son in a similar accident.
Jambo, habari. Nzuri sana, salama. We're looking for Mama Nicole. Do you know Mama Nicole?
Yes.
Can you show us? Would you mind showing us? Could you show us? Yeah?
Yes, I can show you.
Ah, Mama Nicole. Jambo. Jambo, habari. Nzuri sana. Michael. This is Karine. Can you tell me his name? Deomba. He's a really handsome young guy. What was he like?
Hapa ni mwanamke. Kotea kazi ya nyumba, kazi ya vyote tu vya nyumba. Yeye ndio kwa mama wa nyumba. Anisaidia vya mingi. Shuleni bila amenipeleka tu.
Helped me a lot, but I can't understand how he just listen to me.
Diomba was Mama Nicole's firstborn.
Niko mumisa deja banitosha mumisa. Banyosha sema mtoto afanye vile mama. Panasa pana chenda ke mkari yangu mimi narudia tena.
I'm so sorry.
Mama Nicole and her family live right on the edge of the giant Chinese-owned Congo Dongfang International Mining Concession, also known as CDM. Deomba collected cobalt in the waste on the edge of the mine. When the mine embankment collapsed, he and his friend were buried alive.
Is that area protected at all? Are there fences around it that stop children getting in there?
There is no fences.
Did the mining company take any responsibility?
They did not.
Nothing.
Yes.
Under Congolese law, the company has an obligation to ensure the mine doesn't pose a threat to the communities around it.
When you look around here, there's just children everywhere. You know, 3, 4, 5-year-olds everywhere. And this mine is
750 meters away, and there are no fences protecting this community full of children from what is obviously a very dangerous mining area.
The body of Diomba was dug up and brought home for a proper burial. His family haven't yet been able to afford a cross, and his grave remains unmarked. The CDM mine is a subsidiary of the Chinese multinational Zhejiang Huayu Cobalt, one of the world's biggest cobalt producers. For years, Huayu supplied cobalt to battery makers, who in turn supplied companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Volkswagen. In 2016, Amnesty International concluded Huayu was probably buying cobalt from artisanal mines where children worked in hazardous conditions. The company pledged to stop the practice. But I've heard CDM is still doing it.
all right.
The Chinese industrial miners are notoriously secretive. Getting answers from them is difficult.
Gotta make sure that that doesn't poke out.
I'm putting a hidden camera in my shirt.
That's better.
I'm going to pay CDM a visit.
Do you think they're going to check me at the gate?
Are we going with you?
Okay, let's go.
Outside CDM's main cobalt depot, I approach the gate.
Pour faire visite ici, oui, il fallait aller au niveau de notre bureau supérieur. Oui, coopérer avec les Chinois.
The depot is protected by presidential guardsmen, soldiers deployed by the highest echelon of the Congolese government. And it's clear I won't be allowed inside.
And I'm curious, does CDM buy artisanal mined cobalt?
Oui, oui. Creuset, produit cobalt. Oui. Précédent. Sana achara uliza bien. Wale wanaproduce hapa wanataka independent, vipi wanalo
CDM is buying artisanal cobalt from outside of their own property.
Yeah, this is what the guards are telling.
If what the guard says is true, then CDM has breached Congolese law, which bans buying cobalt from unregulated artisanal miners. And it's betrayed its clients, who have policies against child labor. We asked Huayu for a response, but we haven't heard back. Huayu has also pledged to improve the lives of the people who live around its mines. But in Mama Nicole's village, there's little evidence of that. She and her family can barely afford the cross for her son's grave.
Mama.
En route to the cemetery, we're stopped.
The chief is coming.
Behind me over there, where that crowd is gathered, is the chief of this district, and he is trying to extort a bribe to allow Mama Nicole to go and place a cross on the grave of her son.
We pay the bribe. Only then are we allowed to continue. "500 meters from where Mama Nicole's son is buried, we find this mine, teeming with children. It's Congolese-owned. Government attempts to stop children working in the mines have been made to appease big battery buyers like Microsoft, Apple, and Tesla. But they're not having much impact here. Most of the boys here are between 12 and 16 years old. Their job is to haul sacks of cobalt-rich dirt from the pit onto the trucks.
It takes 1,200 sacks of cobalt to fill that truck, and this crew of boys fill that truck twice a day.
A crew of even younger boys, 5- and 6-year-olds, collect the sacks and return them to the pit.
Oh my gosh. That has got to be, I reckon that's got to be 30 to 40 kilos at least. Man, that's heavy.
Everyone here works without safety gear. Prolonged exposure to cobalt can lead to cancer, lung disease, and heart failure. I ask the mine manager why the boys aren't at school.
L'État congolais jusqu'à présent est incapable ya kulipa masomo ya wale watoto d'une manière gratuite sama pays ingine pendant que pays riche.
Camera down, camera down. Ouais, hi. Bonjour.
The police arrive. The police chief pulls our local producer aside for a quick chat.
So we have to pay him
20. Yeah.
20 bucks?
Later.
Later.
Now.
Okay. But he's a cop, right? He's a policeman.
Yeah, of course. He's a commissioner.
He's the police commissioner?
Yeah, of course. The mines police representative in this area.
And that's the sad truth of it. Despite the government ban on children working in the mines, there's little enforcement on the ground.
Careful, careful.
The police commissioner offers to show me a different type of artisanal mining. We enter an area riddled with hand-dug tunnel mines. Tunnel mining is the most dangerous method of cobalt extraction.
Bonjour. Jambo.
A team of miners agree to take our cameras down. First, they descend a 6-meter shaft, barefoot. There are no structural supports down here, nothing to keep the roof from collapsing. The men film rich nuggets of copper and cobalt, but they can't extract them without risking a cave-in. They enter a long horizontal tunnel.
I can hear their voices. I can hear them digging.
I mean, if a tunnel like this collapsed, there would just be absolutely no way of getting them out. There's nothing around here for miles.
Finally, 25 meters underground, the men dig again, unearthing more cobalt. After 20 minutes, they head up. There's not enough oxygen for them to stay longer.
Aha. So this is cobalt. This is what people in this region are digging and dying for. I've never seen it up close like this before. You can see it's an iridescent green. Quite beautiful in its own way.
I want to investigate where the cobalt from unregulated artisanal miners ends up and who buys it.
We're on our way to the cobalt market. It's a place that's very wary of cameras. Journalists in the past have had a lot of trouble getting in there. Technically, it's illegal for anybody but a Congolese person to buy cobalt in the Congo.
But I've been told Chinese traders are running this market.
So you see that motorcycle up ahead of us with sacks strapped to the back. Those sacks are full of cobalt. That's a small artisanal miner who's heading to the market.
The motorbike enters a compound, and I follow. Inside are dozens of men weighing and stacking massive sacks of raw cobalt under the supervision of a Chinese buyer.
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Sun Dongjian.
Song Dongjian. Where are you from? Shanghai, Beijing?
Beijing.
Beijing. Okay.
Tout cette cobalt acheté par les Chinois.
Oui, oui. All of it goes to China.
Congolese men are testing the purity of the cobalt, which is toxic. Chinese bosses watch from behind glass in an adjacent room.
Ni hao.
Outside, my crew is watching the warehouse from our vehicle.
They have seen the camera, the guys have...
Which camera? What do you mean? What did they see? On Michael, the hidden camera on Michael.
Okay.
The crew calls my phone to warn me.
Let's get out of here. Let's go. Let's go quickly. Let's go. That was stressful.
The warehouse I was just in isn't unique. Dozens of them line this road. This is where thousands of tons of cobalt, some mined by children, begin their journey into the global supply chain. While this cobalt won't be sold directly to companies like Apple and Tesla, it will be distributed on the international market. Further up the supply chain, it's likely it will be combined with so-called clean cobalt and used to make phones, laptops, and electric cars. In the last decade, the Chinese have taken over the cobalt mines here and control global supply. They now operate 15 of the 19 biggest mines in the Congo.
That could be it there. I see a 3-story building over there.
I want to know what's changed for the locals. A whistleblower has agreed to tell me.
Hi, thank you very much for meeting us, because you work, from what I understand, inside a big mine. Is that right?
I think I will keep quiet on the name of the company where I'm working, but I really work in a big mine owned by Chinese.
What are the working conditions like?
People even are dying for lack of safety. If a worker dies, they will go and bury the person, hiding the corpse.
They'll bury somebody who was killed at the mine.
They don't show to the government. I have to show you the treatment which we are facing. You see?
A Congolese soldier whips an artisanal miner who was caught trespassing at an industrial mine. The Chinese mine managers are watching, laughing.
And you see the level for violence and the corruption. It means that things are not really working properly. As Congolese, we are not benefiting from what Chinese are mining. It's like now all the jobless people from China start working here, while our local people are suffering. This is our land. All the mineral resources going out.
And no development here.
Development here. In fact, we are being underdeveloped by what they are taking.
The town of Kolwezi in the far south sits on the richest seam of cobalt in the Congo. Mining trucks rumble through the town day and night. Hundreds of thousands of people live on the edges of these industrial mines.
Are we under arrest?
We've only been in town a few hours when a security team surrounds us. They're from the Chinese-owned Komus mine. They say the public road where we're filming is their property, and we're trespassing. Among them are members of the Congolese police force. One of the policemen suspects I'm wearing a hidden camera under my shirt.
The Chinese mine security boss came over and said we have to follow them to their security office on the edge of the mine.
Okay, so we have to be careful.
Intimidation tactics are not unusual here. Human rights activists who speak out against the mines have had death threats. A local producer working for an American TV crew was kidnapped.
This does feel like we are completely under their control right now.
Yeah.
I try to talk with the manager, but don't get very far. A supervisor makes a phone call, and I'm told the chief of police is on his way.
The Chinese mining companies are paying the Congolese police to do their dirty work for them.
We're held for 2 hours before the police chief arrives. We're ordered to follow the police chief to the station.
We're probably going to be hit up for a bribe. That would be a best case scenario. Worst case scenario, we end up detained or imprisoned or kicked out of the country.
They haven't found my hidden camera, and I film as the police chief takes my passport.
Australian.
The police chief writes a statement saying we're trespassing and demands a bribe. After paying it, we're let go.
We're finally out of the police station, but do I feel safe? No. I'm not going to feel safe until we're out of this country, I think.
For the Congolese people, mining has delivered very little. 8 years into the cobalt boom, much of Kolwezi has no running water. Infant mortality rates are still high, and there are no functioning public schools.
I'm looking at the whole situation, the reality of what we are living in now with the mining of cobalt and the sufferings of the people. If we don't do anything today, what will become of tomorrow?
Amidst the poverty and corruption, there's a glimmer of hope. Sister Jane Wainoi and Sister Justicia Nikiza Pili belong to the Good Shepherd Order of Nuns. They've rescued more than 4,000 children from the mines and enrolled them in a school they built themselves.
If the children are given education, if schools are spread all over and every child goes to school, then we are redeeming this country.
I think this is the home we are going.
Today, the nuns have come to see if they can help Mama Natalie and her boys, John and King. We met them earlier, scavenging for cobalt on the embankments of an industrial mine.
Unaitwa jina nani? John. Hujaenda masomo leo?
Karibu kwetu mama.
Hapa ndio mnaishi? Je, tukae na wewe.
Mama Natalie and her husband can't afford to send their sons to school. The cobalt the boys help find feeds the family. Mama Natalie also has 2 young daughters at home.
Ndio sasa tunajaribu kuingia hapa tuone, tuambie umuhimu wa kupeleka watoto kwa masomo. kwa sababu ndio tulikuwa tunataka kusikia hapa tukiwa na sister, mambo ya kupeleka watoto kwa masomo. Mnaona iko na mafaa? Mama Natali, kama utaona ni kitu unaweza kuangalia. In some of the families we encounter resistance because we are reducing the workers, reducing their income for the family. The children, whatever is within their environment, they think that is the life. But they are children, not minors. That's why we try to put them in their rightful place, and that is to be in school.
It's a new day for Mama Natalie's sons, and hopefully a new future for the family. It's bittersweet for Mama Natalie. Today, she'll work alone on the embankment to get enough money for dinner, while King and John will now be fed at school.
Kuvula vilonda viungwe kumaka savana vabantu abo yewa kuibalama wende nabo kaje wiye nabo musujile mutima obekeswa mutima gabe kifike jibo yami mutoke bene musujile amen. Kanga abafunde banze kujunguluka junguluka makaria. Njo hii batoto njo maisha ya kesho. Mwende mzuri. Mwende kwa masomo.
Jambo yenu. Mmeingia kwa masomo? Karibuni sana.
What's the best part of your job?
The best part is seeing that a child says, I now know my rights. I want to study and become a lawyer, become a teacher, become a doctor. In that I feel my heart is satisfied, that my purpose for life is being fulfilled. And that is joy. What else do I live for?
The children who attend this school are the lucky ones.
Look at all the hundreds and thousands of children that go to the mines. Every foreigner stealing their lives. If nothing is done today, what will become of them?
As major car makers commit to battling climate change by transitioning to electric vehicles, demand for cobalt is set to explode. The question is, will this multiply the misery for the people in the Congo, or will those at the top share the bounty?
All right, what do you guys think? Do you guys want to go over the questions? Hello, what do you guys think? You guys want to go over the questions? We could run through the questions real quick. We want to do that before you guys do the reflection piece. Getting no response. Sure. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up that we're there? I'm getting a lot of silence. Well, it's always silent, but I mean, are you with me? I got 2 people with me. Where's everybody else? Since the back room. All right, well, let's go over these. All right, and I'll give you guys some time to do the reflections, okay? So who owns most of the cobalt mines? So even though this is a country within Africa, most of the mines, I think they said 15 out of 19 or something really, really high like that is China, right? And stuff. So China, who is the #1 producer of the batteries used in electric cars, this is where they're getting their cobalt from, because China naturally doesn't have a lot of cobalt, yet they're the #1 producer of the lithium batteries, which cobalt is one of the main ingredients. So China owns a lot of these. Anybody get what percent comes from the Congo of the world's cobalt? 17, or was it 70? I thought it was higher than that. Was it 17? Okay. I thought it was 70, but I was also entering grades. Can't remember. Probably. I'm pretty sure it's 70%. I'm pretty sure it's 70%. Are cave-ins common? Yes, I know there was a 7. I'm pretty sure it was 70%. Are cave-ins common in the cobalt mines? Yes, right? They happen very common because there's no safety precautions. There's no safety precautions. How did Diomba die? So he died from a cave-in, right? So they're working those hills, which they shouldn't be on, but they're doing that to try to make a living, right? They're scavenging, trying to make a living because they're not legally on those mines. So they're not technically supposed to be there, but it's the only source of income, right? They're trying to, make a living and stuff. So when those cave in, it's kind of like an avalanche, it comes down and it just buries people. So it gets so steep because they dump it down the side and then it becomes unstable and then people moving. It's so sad, right? And he clearly, the mother really relied on him and helped her a lot. How is it clear that there are no precautions or efforts to make the mines safe for children? There aren't even a fence. There isn't even a fence, So yes, the companies need to keep them out for safety reasons. But then we come back around to how come one of the most sought after resources in the world right now is that country so poor? That country should be rich, like filthy rich. There's so much money leaving the country, yet it's not benefiting the people. And a lot of that has to do with government corruption. And you could see that corruption all the way down, right, to the local governments and hires up. So getting paid off. So individually getting wealthy, but not actually the country collecting the tax and the percentage that they should. If it's being exported, honestly, the Congo should be owning those mines, right? And then exporting or selling them to China, which think as a country, if you're making that income, then you have money for infrastructure, public school, hospitals, roads, all this infrastructure. What are some of the companies? Some of the companies who get their cobalt from the mines in the Congo? I don't remember all of them. What was it? Apple, Volkswagen. What was there? They listed like 3 or 4. What other companies? Yeah, so Apple, Volkswagen, a lot of the automobile industry, Honda, I think so. Yeah, a lot of the automobile industry. What form of labor is common in the cobalt mines? It's not the dominant, but child labor is very common. Child labor is common and stuff just to make ends meet. So child labor is common. What are the possible health conditions that can result from prolonged cobalt exposure? I think they said cancer, death. What were some of the other ones? Lung issues, kidney failure. Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, kidney failure, cancer. So lots of complications that can come from prolonged or exposed to the cobalt, the raw cobalt. So notice they're not wearing any masks. They don't have any protective gear, you know. Why don't most kids go to school? There is no public school. There is no publicly funded school. So everything is private. So it means you have to have money to send your school. So think in the United States, if you want to go to private school, yes, that's going to cost you money. They don't have the funds because they're poor. And the country, which should be making tons of money off this cobalt, is allowing China to just walk out with it, you know? Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, by poor. Yes, exactly. And you can see that everything's a bribe. Everything's a bribe. So there's laws in place, but none of them are enforced because the bribes, and you know, if the police are getting bribed, that's going all the way up the chain, right? That's being allowed. And that's common practice then of the government and politics. So we're going to pass the law to make it sound like we're doing something, but no enforcement, they're going to get away with it. When honestly, they should have possession of those cobalt mines and be running them and ensuring that the country is making the money from that to then provide infrastructure. Countries have to make money. And when a country has a resource that is sought after, they should be, when I do world history, when I teach world history, we talk a lot about this with Mexico. Mexico in the late early 1900s was the number 3 or number 4 producer of oil in the world. Yet so poor. And the reason for that, again, government payoffs. And we were the recipients of that oil. So we were working in cahoots with the government, basically exploiting and taking the gas out of the country at the expense of the people of Mexico, where Mexico should have been taxing the crap out of that, making huge money to build infrastructure. So this happens a lot. It's not just here. Like there's so many examples of this in history and stuff where countries don't stand up and dirty politicians take bribes at the expense of their country, allowing people to basically walk out of the country with all the wealth that the country has that should be reinvesting back into the people. So why do the government bans to stop child labor have little effect? Well, there's nowhere for the kids to go. What are the kids going to do? They don't go to school, and the families can't afford to feed themselves. So the kids become an asset as far as, you know, someone to work to help make money. How long can they stay in the tunnels while harvesting cobalt? 20 minutes, right? So limited supply. And part of that is because they go way down. I don't know about you. That part like freaked me out the most, like claustrophobic, like, oh my goodness. And every time he's chiseling, you're like, oh gosh, don't let it like fall in. I mean, so unsafe. What color is raw cobalt? It's kind of an emerald green, like a dark green. It's very pretty, right? Did you see it through the rock and stuff? It's actually quite pretty. 20 minutes is how long they could stay down in the tunnels because there's a lack of oxygen the further down you go, and they go way down in there, you know, sometimes 50, 60 yards underground. And there's no ventilation. There's no, you know, it's just a tunnel chiseled out. So one chisel could cause the whole thing to collapse. So what color? It's kind of a darkish green. Where is the cobalt from illegal mines being shipped? So it's being shipped back to China. And they saw that with the undercover cameras being shipped back to China. And then what they do is they take the illegal cobalt and the legal cobalt and you mix it together, and it kind of, it's like what you call the black market, right? It cleans the money from the dirty cobalt. And when I say dirty, I mean illegal. So that's how, honestly, the black market works. You take money from a bad business and put it into a legitimate business by mixing it. It makes it hard to trace. So by the time companies like Volkswagen, Apple, things like that, when they're buying a battery or parts from China, not knowing, but not concretely knowing, right, on how, where that cobalt is coming from. Like, oh, it came from this company that's legit. But maybe a third or a fourth of that being mixed in is being bought from the illegal mines, you know, and stuff. So it's easy to cover those tracks. How the illegal, where's the illegal cobalt? So it's shipped to to China, the illegal cobalt will eventually be combined with legal cobalt and used in mainstream products. And that is true. So anything we're consuming that has lithium batteries most definitely has some illegal cobalt that has been mixed in at some point, especially considering such a huge chunk of the world's supply comes from the Congo. How are intruders at mines handled? They are beaten. They have their own, quote, police on, so it's not the local police that's coming and arresting them and handling them and stuff like that. They're being handled by the mine police, which are bought off from the local police, and beating them, torturing them, you know, and stuff. So again, no human rights. Okay, yeah, if you're breaking the law, you should be arrested. But right, there should be a due process way that you're handled, like the way that we have it here. If you break the law, there's a consequence, but they can't just beat you. There has to be a legal, right, path of how you're treated. And there's none of that there. Why are the mines getting away with the activity, even though there are laws in place? Because every politician, every enforcement, every agent is bought off, is being paid by the mines. So they have an incentive to allow it to continue because they're making a ton of personal money off of it. They're getting wealthy. So the country's not getting wealthy and the towns are suffering. I mean, you see the towns, they're third world. There's no running water. There's no electricity. There's no plumbing. You know, it's as basic as it gets. And one of the largest wealthy things produced in the world right now is right next to them. Yet there's no evidence of it in their town. So individuals are getting wealthy, but not the country. Why are the mines getting away with? So the lack of government enforcement and corruption. A country so rich with resources, what evidence of this wealth can be seen within the country? Honestly, none. None, right? There's really no evidence of it. Again, showing whenever you see a country that has a high demand natural resource that's coming out of that country, it should equate to industrialization, right? It should equate to the country getting wealthy. Think about parts of the Middle East, very, very rich with oil or something like that. So those countries, their governments are very, very wealthy because they're making money off of the resource, right? So in the same way, the Congo should be wealthy, very, very wealthy, and stuff. At least the government should be, and then have that money to develop, to bring modernization, public schools. But because individual politicians are being bought off, the government doesn't get it, the individual gets it. And then why are some of the families resistant to the education being offered by the nuns? What, did you guys catch that? Why was the family resistant? Because you'd think they'd want to send them to school. But why is sending them to school a hard decision? It's easy for us to say, send them to school. That's the perfect opportunity. But why? No, they don't hit the kids. No, the nuns aren't being mean to the kids. The nuns aren't being mean to the kids. Exactly. They rely, you could hear that the mom needs them for the income. So it sounds like to us, we're like, why wouldn't you want your kid to go to school? Don't you want your kid to go to school? Of course they do. But when you're looking at surviving, and that's 2 extra hands, right, that help feed the family every night. If they don't collect cobalt, they don't eat. So getting rid of 2 out of the 3 working extra hands, that's hard. Well, every religion has their issues for sure. And there's some scars in the Catholic Church's past for sure. But there's also a lot of good that is done. So, you know, so never saying never, I don't know. But I would go with the benefit of the doubt unless there was evidence elsewhere. And considering the government's not providing anything, this is the only thing, not only education, but also a meal. And what a lot of people don't sometimes acknowledge is that in some of these third world countries, people like to harp on religious groups that go in, but in some cases, that is the only help that the local communities get. The government is not providing anything. So do they all do it perfectly? Absolutely not. And there are issues within that. But I think majority have good intentions and do make an impact, right? Or try to make an impact on, you know, and if this is a way out for these kids, then in the end, hopefully a blessing for the family. And stuff, or at least getting a basic education where maybe they could qualify to go to a better training or something like that. So the family's resistant, not because they don't want education, but surviving or providing your kids a future. And that could be really, really hard. You know, I got to eat today, it's hard to think long term, you know. And again, that doesn't even cross our mind. Poverty in our country is wealth in other countries. If you think about it, like what we consider poverty, what we consider you know, people living in hard conditions, you know, if something like that, maybe living in not a great apartment or in harder conditions like that. In cases like this, right, that would be middle upper class, you know. So it's amazing how just sometimes our perspective of poverty, it can be totally redefined depending on where we're talking about, right? What we consider impoverished. I think is another thing that can kind of be learned from this. Okay, any questions on those questions? And then we have about 15 minutes. You can work on the reflection part, and then we're going to end class. No questions on that? Okay, so reflection. As green energy push is gaining momentum, what concerns do you think aren't being addressed when looking at the cycle of production? If we make one country cleaner at the expense of another, are we achieving the goal? So please respond with at least one paragraph. So that would be 5 sentences, giving at least 2 insights that need to be addressed as we move toward cleaner energy. All right, and this link right here is really great. It's associated with this Mind with This production. So this goes with the documentary. You can see there's Mama, and I don't remember which one was John and stuff. So this is from or linked to that documentary, okay? And kind of takes you through each section and stuff. So kind of scroll through. And in each section, see, they have some of the information that was also talked about in the documentary. Stabbing the wall. They only have 20 minutes worth of oxygen down there. So you can see it's kind of like snippets from, and then it's like a more engaging site. So kind of take a look through this, think about those questions, give about a 1-paragraph response. And then, oops, did it stop my presenting? Sorry about that. Okay, so click on the link on your document. It'll take you to this page. And again, this is kind of snippets and information that were covered in the documentary. Okay, and you can use information from this and kind of refresh yourself a little bit, then to respond to these kind of 2 points in 1 paragraph. Any questions? So take like the next 13 minutes. I'll let you go at 3. So about 13 minutes. Get that done. This is going to be the first grade going in for 4th quarter. Okay, so it's not technically due till Monday the 18th, but get it done. And then when we come back that week, especially we're doing it in class. So this will be, this is a summative grade, sorry, this is a summative grade. So it's a great way to start 4th quarter out with a high grade. Let me know if you have any questions while you finish this up. Okay, great. Go ahead and get it submitted. We're going to hang out for about 5 more minutes and then I'll let you all go. All right, let's wrap things up. So we have gotten this done in class. Please get this submitted. This will be the first grade that goes in for fourth quarter. All right, so that can be a great way to start strong for fourth quarter. My biggest thing, if you struggle with your grades, going to class and participating, doing what the teacher is doing during class is such a big avenue toward passing, and not getting behind and forming those positive habits. Okay. I hope you have a wonderful spring break and have some fun, unplug from school and all that. I hope you get to hang out with friends, do something fun. If you're going out of town, have a great time. And yes, and we'll come back ready for fourth quarter. All right, which fourth quarter always goes fast. Fourth quarter always goes really, really fast. Yes, see you later. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.